So everything in this video that I'm going to say might be totally irrelevant within the next year, possibly the next month, maybe even this week. Because today's game is an early access title. There's ongoing development, and I've been waiting for this game to come out since its announcement in 2017. It's undergone a mass change in style going from PvP to PvE, and I think it's for the best because I absolutely love this game. Ready or Not just released on Steam not too long ago and was one of the best games of its genre that I've played in a long time. If you played SWAT 4, there's a lot of elements of it present here in Ready or Not. Basically a spiritual successor and possibly the closest we'll ever get to having a SWAT 5. Ready or Not showed up in early access, and my friend Austin was kind enough to shoot me a copy of the game. We proceeded to play the game for about 9 hours straight the first night. There's so much to talk about with Ready or Not, and I'm still so excited for the future. The game is a super intense first-person shooter purely based around being on a SWAT team. A single-player and co-op mode exists in the game currently with several different mission types that you can play through. You have the Barricaded Suspects, which is the basic mode where you arrest suspects, secure civilians, and evidence, while also avoiding traps placed around the location. Next you have the Raid, which is basically the same as Barricaded Suspects, but the suspects are a lot more hostile and a lot less likely to surrender, with the rules of engagement being lowered because of how dangerous these suspects are going to be. Next is the ever-present controversial topic revolving around the game, mostly from people who haven't played it or don't plan to play it, but the active shooter scenario. In this mode, the team goes in to stop an active shooter, or possible shooters. This scenario is probably the most stressful, and certainly seems to be the one that everyone's pinpointing in on. As someone who was initially put off by the inclusion of the mission after seeing the nature of the rest of the game, I can safely say that the scenario is handled properly and with respect to the very real situations we've seen unfold. The devs very clearly want to cover dark topics and real ones that exist in our world, and they do so with every scenario so far, with this one having the most pressure as civilians are actively being shot as you move into the building. After that, we have the bomb threat, which is straightforward enough. A time-constrained scenario where you have to bypass enemies and civilians in order to disarm a bomb before the timer goes off. Then finally, the most difficult of all of the scenarios in the game, the hostage rescue, where you have to stealth your way all through a location to where the hostages are being held. If anything tips off the enemy, they immediately start killing civilians and you enter right back into the active shooter scenario, except it's a lot worse. The extremes of each scenario are enough to make the missions feel unique to each other. There are currently only 6 levels in the game, each with their own interesting design and plenty of range in terms of differentiating each level. My main critique of the level design is that some of the levels can be a little bit too expansive, and it becomes difficult to attain a soft complete of the mission because you have to backtrack through an entire level to look for something you missed. I hope for a day where we can soft complete without getting some objectives done, because failing the mission or quitting out of frustration feels bad. SWAT 4 suffered from this as well, but SWAT 4's levels were a bit more on the compact side in comparison to some of the ones in Ready or Not. The AI could use some tweaking, but that's coming in a January update. To give you an idea of how it feels to play the game, I find myself incredibly immersed every time I get into a mission. My friend Austin and I have been playing it as a duo and still have a ton of fun playing the game. The quick decisions you have to make along with planning out each breach and situation just makes every level feel so tense. No traps, doorway's too thin.
Oh, stay away! Tango down.
Hard copy, calling it in.
Drop to your knees.
Knock him down.
Well,
We've got a dead suspect here.
he's got balls. I constantly find myself stopping after a huge firefight just to take a moment to relax, because the gunplay in the game and the gunfights feel so realistic that I almost actually feel the energy coming out of me. So, I love the majority of this game, so what do I not like about it? It's a decently short list, but my first complaint is the previous mentioned soft complete not being available until the game deems it so. It would just avoid a lot of unnecessary backtracking I find you have to do when you miss some minuscule thing. It kills a lot of the pacing. Speaking of pacing, why is there no sprint available? I read on the Steam forums constantly where people are begging the devs not to add a sprint. I feel like these people enjoy the slow pace of the game at points, which I do too. But I also acknowledge how annoying it is that the AI that is shooting at me moves 100 times faster into cover than I or any of my friends ever could. I feel like sprinting and also vaulting over objects for cover would be an interesting mechanic to add in. It would also add to the hectic nature that comes with the gunfights in the game. There's this weird audience of people who want things to be exactly like SWAT 4, which I don't understand. Personally, I love SWAT 4. It's a lot of fun, and up until Ready or Not, it was the best of its genre. That game came out in 2005, and it feels like it when you play it. Movement speed in Ready or Not is better, but I still feel that a sprint is needed for the long-range gunfights that require you to seek some kind of cover, and the slow walking pace that is in the game now just doesn't do it for me. There's also some voice acting lines that are really cringy, but the devs have also stated they're going to address this in the January update. Essentially, I believe that Ready or Not has overstepped SWAT 4 and has become the best game of its kind with a dev team that seems to really take pride in their game. This will be one of the best games that come out this year if it can continue to gain the traction it needs. I love this game so much and I see so much potential in it. I hope that the devs will take more steps to make this a modern version of SWAT 4 and not just a graphical update with some new mechanics. Now that we're on the tail end of this, are you ready? Or not? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to remember to leave a like and subscribe, and comment down below what you thought of Ready or Not and sort of what your hopes are for the future of the game. And I will see you next time. Remember, you can follow me over at twitch.tv/TomMcAllister to see me play exactly this game or other various online games, single-player games, so on and so forth. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much, and goodbye.